Imagine waking up one morning and by the end of the day, 23,000 people are dead or wounded. The screaming didn't stop when the sun went down. It got worse. Men lay scattered across fields and roads, calling out for help that might never come. Some begged for water, some called for their mothers. Others were silent, staring at the sky, knowing they wouldn't see morning. By the end of this single day, more than 23,000 people were dead, wounded, or missing. And this was only the beginning. This moment happened on September 17, 1862. In a quiet place that wasn't meant for history, a farming town in Maryland, wooden fences, cornfields, stone bridges. Its name was Antietam. Most people are told this battle was a turning point, a necessary sacrifice, a step toward freedom. But standing on that ground, surrounded by the wounded and dying, it didn't feel like progress. It felt like something had gone terribly wrong. Months earlier, the Civil War was already draining the nation. Families waited for letters that never came. Cities argued. Brothers fought brothers. The North had more people, more factories, more weapons. On paper, it should have been winning, but victory kept slipping away, like trying to grab smoke with your hands. That's when Robert E. Lee made a dangerous choice. He took his Confederate army and marched north, straight into Maryland. He wasn't just moving soldiers, he was gambling with lives. If he succeeded, Northern civilians would panic. Other states might join his cause. The war itself might end. Imagine being a farmer watching thousands of tired, hungry soldiers march past your land, knowing a storm was coming and there was nowhere to hide. Waiting for Lee was the Union Army, led by General George McClellan, a man who cared deeply about his soldiers, a man who also feared losing them. Then something unbelievable happened. Union soldiers found Lee's battle plans lying on the ground, wrapped around cigars, the enemy's instructions, his moves, his weaknesses. It was like finding the answers to a test before sitting down to take it. McClellan now knew Lee's army was split and vulnerable, but instead of acting fast, he paused. He imagined Lee's army was larger than it really was. He feared a trap. He waited for the perfect moment. That moment never came. When the sun rose on September 17, the waiting ended. The first shots were fired in a cornfield. At first glance, it looked calm. Golden stalk standing tall. Morning fog drifting low. But inside that cornfield, soldiers couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Every sound felt close. Every shadow felt alive. Then rifles cracked. Men dropped before they even knew where the shots came from. Lines broke apart. Friends lost each other in seconds. The cornfield became a spinning door of death. One side pushed in, the other pushed back, over and over again. 6 times the ground changed hands. By the end, the corn was torn to pieces. The earth was dark and wet. Bodies lay so close together that survivors later said you could walk across the field without touching the ground. These weren't faceless soldiers. They were sons who carried letters in their pockets, teenagers who lied about their age to enlist, fathers who promised they'd come home. A little farther down the line was a sunken road. Think of it like a dirt trench made by years of wagon wheels. Confederate soldiers crowded into it, shoulder to shoulder. Union soldiers charged toward it again and again. Every step forward meant stepping over someone who had just fallen. The road filled with bodies until it looked less like a path and more like a wall. Blood pooled so deep that people said it flowed like a stream. Later, it would be called Bloody Lane, not as a nickname, as a warning. Then came a narrow stone bridge crossing a creek, Burnside Bridge. Union soldiers were ordered to cross it while Confederate troops waited above, aiming down at them. Picture trying to run across a hallway while someone at the end throws knives at you. There were shallow places nearby where soldiers could have crossed more safely, but confusion and strict orders kept pushing men onto that bridge. They ran, they fell. Some slipped into the water. Others didn't move at all. Every step forward felt impossible. As the sun sank low, the fighting slowed, but the suffering didn't. Doctors worked until their arms gave out. Limbs were cut away with saws. No medicine to dull the pain. Churches and homes filled with wounded men. The air was thick with smoke, blood, and fear. By nightfall, more than 23,000 lives had been shattered in one day. And for what? Here is the truth that makes Antietam so hard to face. The battle had no clear winner. Lee's army survived. He escaped back south. The war went on for years, but the Union called it a victory. Not because it truly was one, because it needed to be. President Abraham Lincoln had been waiting for a moment like this. Without a win, he couldn't announce the Emancipation Proclamation. That single document would change the meaning of the war forever. So Antietam became the excuse. Thousands of men died, not for a final victory, but to make one possible on paper. Their blood shifted history. As night settled over Antietam, the cries slowly faded. Fires burned low. Survivors stared into the dark, wondering how the world could ever feel normal again. And while most people remember what came after this battle, few stopped to ask what almost happened next.